This is Get Inspired with Dr. Barb show. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to have our audience here with us today because I have a very, very special guest on today's Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. And our wonderful guest is Teri Holamon. Teri, it's such a pleasure to have you today on the podcast because, as you know, this podcast is about innovation in education, but I think that innovating in education without including animal is really not true complete innovation based what I have observed and also what you have observed for probably quite a few years because you have a little bit more experience in this practice. Welcome to the show, Teri.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Teri, I would like to say a little bit about you. I know you have a lot of achievements and a lot of roles that you play. You are a licensed professional counselor supervisor, certified school counselor in the state of Texas. And this is so exciting. You are a registered play therapist supervisor and certified humanistic centered therapist. I know we didn't have a chance to talk about that yet. And this is so cool that you became the first certified animal assisted play therapist in the United States through, of course, the International Association of Animal Assisted Play Therapy. And now you are a PT supervisor and instructor. You also certified animal ethology and behavior specialist. This is absolutely wonderful. Over 20 years of clinical experience, decades of working with dogs, but not only with dogs, right? With other animals such as horses. And you've been also attending conferences nationally, statewide, presenting. You own your own private practice in Texas. And there are more things that you do and represent. And if you could maybe add, if there is something that I missed, I'm sure I did, but that would be important to mention, please do that.
Okay. Well, I do have, it's actually the International Institute for Animal Assisted Play Therapy. We also have an association, but, uh,
Right.
but I was, certified through them. Our very first person to be certified through them was in the UK. It's an international organization, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I also have also the owner of North Texas Therapy Animals, and we're a registering organization, much like Pet Partners,
Yeah.
through Intermountain Therapy Animals.
So this is a therapy dog organization that's like partners, like all the other therapy dog organizations, right?
Right. Most of them are registering organizations. We,
Mm-hmm.
we there's certification, there's certificates, and there's registrations. And the International Institute of Animal Assisted Play Therapy is a certifying organization. So
Mm-hmm.
that means we train, we do
Yeah.
all of we're responsible for the people that we put out there, basically.
Right. But you certified therapy dog teams to be able to go to all these places, such as schools and medical facilities. So that's a lot of responsibilities to handle the organization. Some organizations are thriving, some not so well. We hear all kinds of issues, right? It's
Right.
it's very difficult to run this kind of endeavor. I wanted to ask you what really brought you to that field? I mean, I know you have a lot of teaching experience too. So where did this work with animals and bringing animals to education and not only, when did it started for you?
It started many years ago when I went to my very first ACA conference, which is the National Counseling Association conference. And I heard a school counselor
Mhm.
talk about bringing her, I think she had a beagle, if I remember correctly, bringing her beagle to school. And I was working in schools at the time, but I was starting my private practice as well. And I just was blown away when I heard that. And I thought that would be amazing to do that. And so, actually, at that conference, there was another session that I was in where we were
Mhm.
supposed to write down our goals for the next year and put them in an envelope and give them to the presenter. They had our name and our address on them, and she was going to mail them back out to us in a year
Yeah.
to see if we had accomplished those goals. And one of my goals was to have a dog that I was beginning to train as a therapy dog. And sure enough, a year later, when I got that in the mail, because I'd forgotten about it, I had my dog, my golden doodle, and was training him in to be a therapy dog.
And that was Gibbs, right?
That was Gibbs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Wonderful Gibbs.
Mhm.
And so it's amazing, and we each have such a different kind of starts, right? How it starts. And I wonder because again, you have so much experience in this field and you've seen so many incredible moments, right? As far as what therapy dogs can do in the classroom. As you know, this podcast is about the classroom, what's going in the classroom and how we can make education better for children. I'm
Mhm.
sure you have so many moments that were incredible when you saw what Gibbs, let's say, because Gibbs has been a big part of your practice really here, that he did something and you as well, of course, because you worked in collaboration and how that played out for the child or for a group of children. And because there are probably a lot of moments like that, maybe you can pick just two or three or just two.
Sure. I have been doing this a long time. Gibbs passed away almost 2 years ago now, and he was almost 15 when he passed away. So I'm kind of on the other end in a lot of ways of it. The children that we worked with are adults now. So
Yeah.
I've gotten to see what has happened in their lives and how much he meant to them. I had a child that I worked with for years when I was an elementary school counselor with Gibbs, who was on the spectrum, but he was a gifted child.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught Gibbs a lot of commands. He worked with him all the time. He read with him. He's the one that was reading Gibbs a book one day, Clifford the Big Red Dog, and it was the one called No Dogs Allowed. And he was reading out loud to Gibbs when he suddenly stopped reading verbally, but his eyes were still tracking on the page. And he turned the page and he read some more, but didn't say a word. And he turned the page again. And I just waited to see what was going on. And finally, he said, I think I'm not going to read these pages to Gibbs because this is a mean man who put a sign up in his yard that said, No dogs allowed. And he said, I'm afraid it'll hurt Gibbs' feelings.
Yeah.
And so I said, that's absolutely fine. But when I talked to his mother at the end of the day when she came to pick him up and told her about it, she burst into tears and said, that's the first time he's shown any empathy for another living being. And it was to Gibbs. And he's an adult now. He's graduated from college and still every year on my birthday, he just sends me a text to say happy birthday. He's still on the spectrum. He still
Yeah.
struggles with all of those kinds of issues. Um, but he's never forgotten Gibbs. There's a lot more to that story through the years, but he's never forgotten Gibbs, and neither has his mom. In fact,
But
his mom
Terry,
wrote a
this
letter.
is amazing because to be able to have we are now visiting with my dog fifth graders, and these
Hmm.
fifth graders had Carmel when they were in second grade. So
Hmm.
this is so cool because guess what? They remember, right? They
Yes,
remember what happened in the second grade, and not only that, they think it was the best part of that second grade. But
yes.
you talking about now someone who's already adult, graduated, and
Hmm.
then his mom is also involved because I think that often we don't talk about the impact. I mean, the impact is huge on these children, right?
Right,
Socially, social, emotional, really skills here are incredible. But then the impact that's on the families, on the parents of these children is just as amazing.
right.
And you have a chance to hear. from him, and then you did from his mom. I
Mhm.
mean, what a cool study that would be, right? To track these people
Yes.
and to ask
Yes.
them. I mean, because their impact is probably on their whole life. But you said, and I have to probe a little bit, so to speak, that there's more to the story. If you can reveal a little bit more.
His mother actually wrote a letter to Intermountain Therapy Animals to tell them what had happened. I mean, this was a huge impact on her.
Wow.
And then he was in special education, and then he went on, he left elementary. I was still in elementary at the time. He left elementary school, went on to middle school, high school, and I hadn't seen him in years. And
Uh-huh.
she called me when he was in high school to tell me that he was being dismissed from special education because he was doing so well. And I get choked up when I talk about this. I can't believe I'm getting choked up already. But she said, she cried and she said, this is all because of Gibbs and
Uh-huh.
you. She always put and you in there.
Yes.
But it was, the impact was great. It was really great
Wow.
on them. And there are a lot of stories like that. There was another little boy in second
Uh-huh.
grade. You told me you a lot of the children work with Carmel in second grade. He
Yes.
was a struggling reader, and he was chosen to come and read with Gibbs. And I'll never forget him. He sat down and he opened the book and he kind of moved it over to Gibbs to the front of his face. And he just kind of sat there for a while. And then he finally looked at me and he said, is he going to read to me or do I read to him?
He didn't mind being read by the dog.
I said, "Oh, Gibbs loves it when you read to him." So he read to him for his entire second grade year. Many years later, when he was a senior in high school, they had some kind of a special ring ceremony or something. I
Yeah.
actually can't remember now. But the students that were chosen were encouraged to have an educator who had the most influence on them come to present this ring to them during a ceremony with parents and everything. And 99% of high school seniors are choosing a high school teacher that had the most impact on them.
Yeah.
I was called to come,
Wow.
right, because that's how much reading with Gibbs had affected him all those years later.
Unbelievable.
Hmm.
Really is. Really is. It's just so wonderful to have this contact with someone who's an adult already, because that often doesn't happen, right? Kids are
No.
just, they just go in, they just leave in, and we just kind of lose touch in them. That's just a normal part of life. But
Hmm.
it's absolutely amazing. And I wonder if you could mention a little bit about horses, because I know we talk about dogs a lot,
Hmm.
but like, how is this different with horses? Like, let's say if if a school is interested in, oh, we would like to also have a horse, like a mini horse, miniature horse. How would it really work with the school? I mean, the horse is not going to go in the classroom, right?
No.
Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I would let them
The horse.
in.
We go to the horse. And I didn't do that with schools, but I know others who do. And they have their horses very near to the school, and
Uh-huh.
kids get on the school bus and go to the horse and work
Yeah.
with the horse there. And it's very similar to what we do. We don't ride the horses. We work
Yeah.
and we play games,
Yeah.
and we have all kinds of, especially social emotional with a horse. Oh my
Right.
goodness, that's a big thing. And we have all kinds of fun games that the children can play with them.
That's amazing. We have not talked about the specifics of animal assisted play therapy. This is something different because I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around it, because I know that there is a difference between this practice and if you look at regular therapy dogs association organizations, they certify therapy dogs. So the therapy dogs can just go into the classroom, let's say, the child reads to the dog, or the dog just kind of walks around the classroom. But these organizations, they do not really go into like what else you can do with this animal. Maybe you can do some kind of play therapy. This is not a part of the certification in really any of these organizations, I don't think. It's just a little bit of obedience, making sure that the dog has good demeanor, passes the test, right, together with the handler or partner. So, what is the nature of animal assisted play therapy? If you could explain to our listeners, we might have a parent or we might have a teacher. I would like them to know about this because this is something super cool. This is like an advanced form of including therapy animals, I think, right? I don't know if I'm right.
No, it is. It is definitely a, your traditional, I think, therapy dog is a very chill dog who just likes to be petted and is there for calming for the person, because we know studies have shown that they can lower petting the dogs can lower your heart rate, and they've done studies in hospitals where people who had heart surgery recovered so much faster when they had a therapy animal there. So our dogs are like that. They can be like that,
Mhm.
but we want them to also be very playful and very
Yeah.
curious and love people. They have to love, love, love people. And so with play therapy, we traditionally say that play is the language of childhood and
Mhm.
toys are their words. So in my playroom, we had a lot of toys for the children, and they often worked through issues that they had, many times just through play. And it's very different than talk therapy. And then we add the component of the animals. And I worked with a lot of foster children, and foster children don't trust adults very much because they've been moved around a lot. But they did love Gibbs. They loved the dog. And eventually, what we hoped would happen, and it always did, was that they would watch the relationship that I had with Gibbs and that Gibbs had with me. And they knew the relationship they had with Gibbs, and eventually you want them to generalize that, okay, I love this dog loves me, but this
Mhm.
adult also loves this dog, and the dog loves the adult. So maybe I can trust them too. Maybe this
Yeah.
adult is okay. And so
This is.
that's what we do in play therapy. In the school situation, I worked with a kindergartner
Mhm.
who was selectively mute. She did not talk. And it worked out beautifully because Gibbs was trained through hand cues initially, and then I added words later. He could be across a room and look at me, and I could give him the hand cue for sit, and he would sit across a room. And so it was really easy for this child. And selective mutism is an anxiety disorder. So there was
It
something
is.
going on.
Mhm.
She didn't have to talk. Everybody wanted her to talk. It was all pressure, pressure, pressure to get her to talk, but she didn't, wasn't under that pressure with Gibbs. And she was able to have him sit and roll over and down and
Yeah.
shake, high five, and all the things that he knew how to do just through hand cues. So she
Yeah.
taught him a lot.
So this is kind of allowing this type of activity practice allows really for more interaction between the child and an animal. When I'm thinking about this, I was always thinking once I got to know a little bit what's happening in this practice and how different it is from the rest. Kind of thing like what I'm doing with my dog is kind of like in between because I'm from a certified with the regular therapy dog organization, but my dog is not a regular therapy dog. She likes to have fun,
Uh-huh.
and to be honest, kids like to have fun with the dog. I mean, I know it has to be a little structure. It can be chaotic, but it's so important that if the animal is into a little bit more fun,
Uh-huh.
then there is some flexibility really in those interactions, still within the constraints. Like in school, I mean, we have to, my dog has to be leashed and all that. So we all required to follow the rules, but there is more room and flexibility for more creativity. It's just not something that's a subject of your educational part when you get certified. that is an interesting aspect, right? It's
Right.
never nobody ever talks about it. So
Mhm.
then what happens is people get certified. It's like, but what else can I do? I don't know. So it's
Right.
very
Right.
interesting. But hopefully we just move the field a little bit more and unifying the field a little bit more. And as you know, there's Taylor's organization too, Taylor Chastain's, that is really, there's a little hope here. People can get professional development, right? I
Right.
remember some years ago, I didn't even know that professional development existed in the area of dog therapy at all. It's like you don't know until you know. You don't know everything,
That's right.
right? So I'm not afraid of saying that. Hey, I don't know it all. Now I know a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, when I started this years and years ago, I thought I knew dogs really well. I'd had dogs all my life and I thought I was pretty good with them. And when I got into this and started the training, I was
Wow.
dumbfounded. One of the things that we work really, really hard at is dog body language. And that's in our 4-day trainings, whether it's our
Right.
level 1 or our level 2, because our dogs are talking to us all the time. And unless we speak their language, we don't know what they're saying. And it's up to us to keep our dogs under threshold. This is not going to be popular to say, but any dog can bite if in the right circumstances because they're
Yeah.
dogs and that's their only way to protect themselves.
This is so important to realize, yeah, because yeah, there are some dogs that they're extremely patient and incredible, but
Hmm.
well, we have to. I keep saying sometimes in the school, children, Carmel the therapy dog, but that's not a mascot. It's a dog,
Right.
and it's really. But then we have a chance to educate children and adults about
Yes.
therapy dogs. But you're right. First, you have to keep learning about this field
Hmm.
because I still hear things like dogs being used, and that doesn't set a good language, doesn't set a good practice, right? If you don't realize that you're speaking this type of language. And
Right.
you've mentioned this incredible activity with dog interacting with the child, child observing the dog interacting with his or her partner, handler, so to speak. I don't really like this word handler.
Right.
And learning by not being taught. Because what I see, the big thing about children learning from dogs and therapy dog partners, which is dog's mom or dad, right? Who is
Right.
certified and brings the dog to school. Kids learn from dogs and these people who are not teachers. So I'm
Right.
not surprised that they learn in the situation. So let's say if we have a teacher who now struggles with, let's say there is a child in the classroom who doesn't talk, right? It happens more often, I think, than we even know.
Right.
But but the school welcomes already therapy dogs. Well, would you maybe advise this teacher to try, perhaps? And it might not be a child who doesn't talk. It might be another situation when the child has just anxious talks, but just can't learn because of the anxiety. And we know what anxiety does to learning, right? Stops learning
Right.
pretty much. Is there any simple activity, presence, anything that you would encourage the teacher to maybe try?
I think that knowing that the dog has agency, the dog has choice. And sometimes the dog chooses to engage, and sometimes the dog doesn't want to engage. And I think when the dog doesn't want to engage, for the teacher to talk with the children at that point and to say, like Carmel or Gibbs,
Uh-huh.
just doesn't really want to participate today. He loves you. Gibbs loves you, but sometimes we just don't feel like it. Do you ever feel,
Uh-huh.
do you ever kind of feel like, oh, I don't really want to interact today or I don't want to do something today? Because honestly, we know that those kids all have, right?
That's for sure. Happens every day, probably. I don't want to say it out loud, but we
Yeah,
know it does happen, right? And,
right.
and the school day is long.
And how important it is to give him that choice. So we're not going to try and coax him out. We're not going to try, we always want them to have a space in the classroom or the playroom or wherever that they can go, whether it's a crate or a dog bed or something. And when I say crate, door open so that the dog
Right.
can go in and out. But that they are choosing not to participate at that particular moment, and to process that with the student or the child, and understand that children need to feel that same sense of agency, and they need to feel empowered to say no.
Hmm. Yeah, this is very powerful. And I mean, there's so much learning, but it starts with this understanding of agency.
Uh-huh.
Animal has agency, and the child has agency. If they don't feel right or safe, ready to do something, they
Mhm.
will not. And that speaks to something, right? I mean, any behavior uh, is communicating something, communicating the needs, or communicating that maybe something is not met.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot for the teachers to learn here. Actually, I think,
Mhm.
and like you said, and I would probably agree that it's probably a good idea to encourage teachers to try including therapy animal in the classroom, but to really do it in a way that's just welcomes this flexibility, right?
Right.
Agency. I don't. What would you say to that? If the teacher was thinking, well, I don't know, maybe I can try that. Maybe it would help my kids, my children.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stories running around in my head right
Yeah.
now. There was a situation one time where a youngster was working it. She had ADHD, which was kind of unusual for a girl, and she was working with Gibbs. She had him in a downstay, and you could put treats on his paws and
Yeah.
tell him to leave it. Very, kind of an elementary thing to teach a dog. And so she was telling him to leave it. And it was kind of a patience. I was working with her one on one just to kind of learn patience.
Yeah.
And she told him to leave it, and then she just waited. And after a little bit, I thought, oh, this is a little bit long for Gibbs, and I could kind of see his paws starting to quiver, like he wanted those treats really badly. And I'd let it go. It was my fault because I let it go a little bit too long, and he ended up taking one of the treats. Well, she backhanded him. She slapped him across the face.
Oh gosh.
And he's a big dog. His head kind of went back, but he just kind of shook it off. His body didn't move, but I was horrified. And it was my job to keep him safe. So
Yes.
I told her that it was my job to keep him safe, and that he wasn't for hitting, and we were going to have to let him go to his crate now to kind of relax and kind of shake that
Mhm.
off. But she got very upset and worried that he wasn't going to like her anymore.
Yeah.
I said, well, let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And the next day when she came in, he ran to her and was
Yeah.
ready to play. And that was a therapeutic moment. That was the
Yeah.
moment because other kids, if she were in a situation with other children, they may not have wanted her to play again. They may
Yeah.
have rejected her if she had done something similar to that, but he didn't, and that meant a lot to her, and was therapy for her. She also is an adult now, and she's a dog trainer.
Oh my goodness, here we go. So full circle. But I just see how incredible role adults have here because you are responsible for your dog and what an incredible role you have in this therapeutic activity, really. And it's just incredible for the teachers to kind of pay attention to this because I think that there are situations where, like you said, it's for children who are foster kids, but not only. I mean, the teacher in the classroom is kind of a stranger often. It's not, right? And sometimes children are just not ready to trust the teacher and they would trust a little bit more an animal. I've just seen it. I've just seen it
Mhm.
happen, and it's absolutely amazing. But again, we need careful supervision on the part of the adult, partner with the dog to facilitate these interactions. I know, Terry, that there is an extensive process as far as for someone to get certified in animal assisted play therapy. So I think that we would maybe talk a little bit about like what would be the best place to go for anybody who is interested in this, who would like to know a little bit more about what I can do to get certified in this field, or maybe inquire about handlers, therapy dog partners who are certified in this practice, who could maybe come to school, partner with us, consult.
Mhm.
What would be the best way to get this kind of information, and also where you are available on social media if somebody
Sure.
would like to ask a question and reach out?
Sure. Well, I'm always going to recommend our training, even if they don't go through the entire thing to become certified, even if they only take the level one,
Uh-huh.
because it's about training the person. The person has to be able to read their dog and to know their dog and to understand the language of the dog. When I do my level one trainings, I always ask the participants, what does this mean? In fact, there are games online that I'll play with them that show dog body language. I'll show a picture of a dog. I'll say, what would you tell me
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening here? I want you to, don't be subjective. I don't want you to say, oh, that dog looks unhappy. Why? I want you to be objective. What is it
Uh,
about the dog that you're seeing? So we do a lot of that in level one. Level one is really training the person.
yeah.
And that's what I think is missing in a lot of organizations.
I think so.
We tend to think as long as the dog is well behaved, that's all that
Yeah.
needs to happen. And that's so far removed. The onus is not on the dog. The onus is on us
Mhm.
as the companion or handler or whatever you want to say. It's really our responsibility for to keep our dog safe as well as the children. So I
Yeah.
would always recommend at the very least a level one. And they're all over the country. You can go to,
Mhm.
they're all over the world, actually. You can go to the International Institute of Animal Assisted Play Therapy website and
Yeah.
find out where all the trainings are. We have them in Australia. We were just talking yesterday about New Zealand and South Africa. I mean, we're all over.
Wow, it's amazing. It
Yes,
really is.
it's exciting. They're in the UK.
Yeah.
We're everywhere. So that would be the first thing that I would say. I also have my own website, but I
Yep.
have on Facebook because so many people
Uh-huh.
are on Facebook. It's the school-based AAPT Special Interest Group.
Uh-huh.
You can reach me there. I have people all the time ask about curriculum ideas and things like that.
Yep.
There's so many playful things we can do with dogs. One of the things I did for math was to take you can take tennis balls. Balls can get a little bouncy in the classroom, but if
Yeah.
your dog will pick up bean bags and you can number them from 1 to 9 and kind of toss them up and let your dog bring one to a child and whatever number that is, they write it on the board. Let's say that we're doing addition
Yep.
facts. And then he does another one and brings it to them and they do the next one and add. You can do that with multiplication, addition, subtraction. You can do it
Mm-hmm.
greater than, less than, equal to, all those things. And it's playful and it's fun and it engages the entire class. The entire class thinks it's fun.
Totally, totally. Because I know we've done with my dog with math, and kids were just loving it. They were moving around. Everybody was entertained. I never had the best entertainment like that. It was
Yes.
absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Jerry, for this. I know we can talk more about it, but that's probably we should save some more for another time. I would love to have you again when you are available, because
Love to
there's
come
just
back.
so much knowledge that you have and so much information. Maybe we can even cover in the future how we can help other therapeutic organizations organizations maybe partner with you to kind of like they should be more open to professional development. Maybe let's partner with research, right, and yours association organization, and let's make sure that those who are certified with us, they also continue the professional development. There should be maybe a little bit more interaction and collaboration. I would love to see that. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Our annual conference is coming up this month,
Right.
and that's where a lot of us get our professional development.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we've got that coming up, and I have a training coming up in June, and um, yeah, we would welcome anyone who wants to join us.
Well, I really am so honored that you join us on the show. Thank you so much. And I will post the links too to the organization, to your website, to your social media platforms too. And see you on social media soon. When this gets published, I'll let you know. I will share the clips. And we would like to thank everybody for listening to another episode, Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. Make sure to follow the show so you never miss it, and share this incredible episode with others, with teachers, with parents, but not only. I think that everybody who cares about education should really listen to this and help us in spreading the word, I think. Thank you so much, Teri. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really